Tonight, flow-on effects still being felt following last month's GP strike in a small Spencer Gulf town. And coming together in the name of gender equality in local politics. Enterprising Women Whyalla hosts a community forum.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. Regional GP services around the Spencer Gulf remain on the edge following last month's doctors' strike that left towns like Peterborough and Orroroo without an emergency service care for several days. The state opposition says the situation is disturbing.
You wouldn't have wanted to get sick if you were in Peterborough, Jamestown or Orroroo in September, after Dr Rowena Conway withdrew her services following a major dispute over pay and working conditions.
Very worrying. Lots of sleepless nights, lots of meetings, lots of angst and lots of soul searching about what we were going to do, because it's very costly when you don't have a doctor because people have to travel out of the community.
Dr Conway resumed services after several days, but the fallout continues.
Negotiations are back underway, but it is very distressing for our country residents to fear that they're not going to have access to emergency health care when they need it.
That situation's quite alarming. The sad thing is, it's not uncommon.
Despite the crisis being over for now, there are fears the situation could reappear in the future if a solid plan isn't hammered out.
And we're just so very grateful, but it has been very, very stressful, and we're not silly enough to think that perhaps it won't continue in the future if things don't work out right for the doctors. But at the moment they have. The doctors are working very hard.
But as the regional doctor shortage worsens, another strike could leave the regions worse off than ever before. Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
As voters prepare to cast their ballots for local government elections, women running for council in Whyalla have stepped up to have their say. Last night, a forum was held at the Sundowner Hotel, highlighting the importance of gender diversity in city leadership.
The voices of strong women.
I love Whyalla. I'm passionate about our city.
Last night, local residents were invited to a council candidate forum hosted by Enterprising Women Whyalla.
I think it was a great opportunity for people to hear who our female candidates are.
Women bring a different perspective to things, like we're mothers, we also work, and for us we see things in a slightly different way.
We can't go around saying that it's doing nothing. There is so much happening in Whyalla just now, and we are on the verge of something wonderful.
Each of the candidates were given 5 minutes to address the audience, outlining key issues in Whyalla they would work to solve if elected.
Issues are youth unemployment or youth homelessness. For others, it's aged care.
I feel, beautifying Whyalla and making sure that, we're remembering that there's two sides of Whyalla.
The buildings are empty for whatever reason is to make them look more presentable. We've got so many old empty shops in Whyalla that they don't just look empty, they look derelict. And it's not a good look for tourists, and it's quite disheartening as a trader.
As long-term residents of Whyalla, hailing from different jobs and walks of life, each candidate says they would be a great addition to the council.
I have worked with Rotary at senior levels. I have worked in aged care at senior levels. I have got the skills that are needed to be on council.
My background in education, and that's what I'd like to bring to council.
I represent a modern perspective. I would like some more community consultation.
Enterprising Women Whyalla, stressing the importance of having a diverse council.
We need the community to get behind us so that we can be their voice.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Meantime, in Port Pirie, Minister for Local Government Jeff Brock is doing his part to get the community in the know ahead of the elections. He wants locals to make educated decisions.
With council elections right around the corner, now is the time to ask the hard-hitting questions.
One of the things that I get very frustrated about and disappointed is the low turnout of council elections. Some people are getting elected with a 10%, 15% of the population voting for them.
A lack of participation, one of the major downsides of non-compulsory voting. This year, Mr Brock wants locals to play an active role in the democratic process.
I encourage the general public out there to actually contact those candidates and ask them what are they going to do for them, for you in this community.
So if there is a topic or project you're passionate about, time is running out to take those issues to the candidates. Their answers could shape the way you vote.
I'm very passionate about local government. I'm very passionate about getting the community to actually be part of their direction going forward. But also I encourage the candidates themselves to get out there.
Jeff Brock says it's a two-way street. He wants candidates to get out there and promote themselves and be available in a public setting to answer any questions the community might have.
Whether it's the mayor or elected members, councillors, this is the ones that will be directing you, that will have your direction and your security and your future of your community. So go out there, put the hard word on them and vote for the people that you want to lead you for the next 4 years.
Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
And keep an eye on your letterbox. The postal ballots for the local elections are being delivered as of today, with the State Election Commission saying all ballots should be issued by next Thursday. The Commission urges anyone who doesn't receive their ballot package by the 20th to get in contact. Member for Flinders Sam Telfer reiterating that voting is crucial for the local communities.
I really do encourage everyone within our state to take up the opportunity to vote for their local candidates and make sure they're putting people in place that have got a vision for their community.
Voting closes on November 10th at 5 p.m, with voters asked to send their ballots back by mail. Still to come tonight, taking every precaution. Farmers prepare for a potential locust outbreak. And following its major revamp, Broken Hill's Tidville Hotel and Bistro in the running for yet another award. Welcome back. The state government has fast-tracked changes to seasonal workers' accommodation to streamline applications and procedures. Changes include the State Planning Commission evaluating development applications for short-term accommodation instead of local councils, and removing consent for temporary accommodation proposals for specific areas.
Grain is expecting to have one of their biggest crops on record and expecting it to be the most value on record perhaps at all. So we know there's going to be a bumper crop and we need to make sure that we've got the workforce to be able to be involved in that harvest.
The changes are now in effect in areas like Kimber and Snowtown. As we inch closer to summer, feeding conditions in pastoral areas become more favourable for the locust, a significant agricultural pest. To ensure minimal damage to crops, precautions are already in place.
Due to favourable weather conditions, there's been a large migration of locusts from remote South Australia and interstate. To avoid a repeat of the catastrophic swarm back in 2010, the state government is investing $1.6 million to respond to a potential insertion of the insects.
Now, the evidence that we have so far doesn't suggest that the outbreak will be of that type of level, but what this $1.6 million investment will be doing is ensuring that we have things like the chemicals on hand that would be needed to respond to an outbreak.
Responding to a locust outbreak requires surveillance to locate the emerging populations to minimise the potential impact on South Australia's $4.19 billion field crop and horticulture industries.
For example, we've got four-wheel drives, we've got motorcycles, we've got trailers and so on, all being part of that rapid mobilisation so that we're able to, one, detect as soon as possible and two, respond if there is indeed an outbreak.
If an outbreak is to occur, it's the responsibility of both the landowner and PIRSA. Locust sighting should be reported to PIRSA on 1800 084 881. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
The Far West Local Health District is on the hunt for some volunteers for a job that's extremely rewarding. The Palliative Care Service is keen to hear from people interested in volunteering for 3 hours of their time per week. The volunteers will help dementia patients, as well as those diagnosed with delirium towards the end of their lives. If you're interested or know someone who is, contact the health service. Known for the distillery, the Tydvil Hotel may have another accolade coming their way. The hotel is a finalist in the Best Innovative Refurbishment category at the Australian Hotels Association New South Wales Awards. The Tydvil, no stranger to the AHA Awards, winning Best Palmy in New South Wales in 2019. This year's winners will be announced on Monday, October 24. Stay with us after the break while our kids learn new tricks from elite acrobats. And cricket's back in some places. The return of the Spencer Golf Cricket Tips is coming up. Welcome back. These school holidays, Whyalla children have been able to learn new flips and tricks that will be sure to dazzle their friends when they return to school. With the city's youth centre, D-Faces held some action-packed workshops taught by trained acrobats from Adelaide.
Twirling, rolling and flipping for fun. This week, D-Faces Whyalla has hosted workshops giving 8 to 17-year-olds a chance to learn acrobatics, dance and physical theatre. The program, titled Kits and Flips, stopping into Whyalla on its tour of First Nations communities throughout the region.
It's basically about building up their skills within the arts and giving them that experience working with professional artists.
Having the ability for them to explore their own voice and their own story as well is really powerful.
As well as physical performance, music production and hip-hop have also been taught this week.
Finding new ways to write songs and to work with music and rhythm and sound and beats.
The favourite part is the DJ and all that, and like singing to the rhythm and all that.
They're very shy, but once we teach them, the importance of getting out of your own way and they give it a go, they're always surprised at what they're capable of.
Presented by Gravity and Other Myths, Country Arts SA and Circus SA, the program is hoping to inspire the next generation of performing artists.
The idea is to mentor young kids so that they can find different kinds of opportunities that may not be originally available to them in these communities.
The fun-filled week of training set to culminate tonight with the children performing a showcase for friends and family to come and watch. Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Now that the footy season is well and truly over, local cricket is back. Let's kick things off in Port Lincoln.
Welcome to Port Lincoln Cricket Tips. First tips of the year, and last week we kicked off with some T20 cricket to get the season underway. But into the real stuff, the 45 over cricket starts this week, and in the first game is Waybacks and Tasmans at Ravendale. Should be a really good game of cricket this one. Tasmans absolutely dominated Waybacks last week. I think they'll be too strong and get the job done in this one. And in the other games, Charlton versus Todd River. Charlton should be too strong on this, going on last week's form as well. I think Charlton will get the job done in this one. Thanks for listening to Port Lincoln Cricket Tips.
Yeah, g'day and welcome back to the Port Lincoln Cricket Tips for 22-23. This week we see Corn take on West Augusta in Corn. This could be a very good match. It's hard to beat Corn and Corn. Westies need to start off pretty good, but I cannot see any West beating Corn in Corn. The other match sees a grand final replay. I reckon Central Stirling will beat South Augusta this week. So there are my two winners, Corn and Central Stirling.
Hello and welcome to the first round of Port Pirie Cricket. This round starts with a double header out at the Senate Road Sporting Complex. Over on number 1 pitch, we got Wandera taking on Port Germain, while out on number 2, we got Southport taking on Props. Early in the season, it's a bit hard to judge how teams will go, and it'll be interesting to see what sort of lineups they got. You'll be tipping Wandera to get the points over Port Germain, and you think Southport will be too strong for Props.
Meantime, in Broken Hill, local cricket has been washed out. Round 1 of the Barrier District Cricket League was meant to start tonight, with South taking on Central in the men's A grade at Alma Oval. However, the committee has decided not to go ahead with round 1 after more than 60 millimetres of rain fell in the Silver City over the past 2 days. Stay with us after the break. The Preservation Society calling for a new home for one of Port Lincoln's oldest boats. And we'll have the weekend weather details and a recap of today with Alex Sykes. Welcome back. It's one of Australia's most historic fishing boats, but in recent years it's been cast aside. Now the Tacoma Preservation Society is hoping the famous vessel can be moved to a new home, where it can be publicly admired in all its glory.
It's the holy grail of bluefin tuna boats. The Tacoma is Australia's first purpose-built tuna fishing vessel constructed by the Haldane brothers in the 1940s. First arriving in Port Lincoln in 1952, the Tacoma went on to play a major role in developing both the tuna and prawn industry. A monumental part of history left docked, hidden away in the marina. Now the Tacoma Preservation Society is fighting for its relocation.
The Preservation Society have been operating for 13 years, and our aim and our goal is to locate the vessel near the Fisherman's Memorial. We think that's an ideal place to display the vessel, and for people, I mean, they don't even have to come on board, but they just walk past it.
We should be proud of this vessel because this represents the history of that industry here. Not just the tuna industry, but the prawning industry as well.
The 24.6 metre long vessel resides on Sandy Point Drive. However, the Society is eager to move the Tacoma to the Fisherman's Memorial, a place which is more accessible for visitors and tourists to come and see a piece of Australian maritime history. However, the Society's president, Ross Haldane, says council doesn't want the boat relocated.
Everybody says, what's happening with the Tacoma? You know, like it's, and I think, oh, well, you know, we're working with council, we're going through the strategic plans and all this stuff, but we're just getting kicked down the road.
The Tacoma is still operational, taking to the seas 25 days of the year, offering people a unique experience to learn about the boat and even pull up a tuna or two.
It was an experience, so you just relate to how these guys on these ships work so hard.
The history of this boat is really interesting, and it'd be great for more young people to learn about this sort of thing as well.
The demonstration was part of a 9-day Ocean to Outback tour hosted by Coastal Safaris. Visitors from New South Wales and Victoria were treated to a unique tourism opportunity, experiencing the very best of the Eyre Peninsula.
A lot what we're doing around here is really unique, different experiences with some very unique guides who are specialising in their field. So again, history, education, wildlife, forward driving, this is fun.
It's my first time on the Eyre Peninsula and it's just amazing. The wildlife and the scenery is beautiful, and the birds and the coastline, and all the people have been really wonderful here.
As for the future of the Tacoma, well, the seas haven't quite sealed its fate just yet, with members of the community remaining optimistic that it can once again be a major drawcard for the township.
You got a vessel like this which is actually out of the way, it's stuck here.
This is the largest, oldest, still operational heritage fishing boat in Australia.
Despite many telling Ross the Tacoma should be the bottom of the ocean like many others of its time, he isn't giving up on his family vessel anytime soon.
They can have their photographs taken in front of it, or they can say, oh, that's the Tacoma. So it can act as a piece of sculpture, or it can go tuna fishing and take people on adventurous tours. So we can do both.
To book a cruise or a polling trip, be sure to visit the Tacoma's Preservation Society's website. Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Alex Sykes. Alex, happy Friday. How's the weekend looking?
Oh, it's looking pretty nice, Maddie, especially Sunday. I'll get to that in just a moment. But first, Port Augusta reached 21 degrees this afternoon. Clear around Broken Hill 19, Woodner partly cloudy and 20 degrees today. Looking more broadly at today's weather map, 20 degrees in Gubbupede and Woodner, 19 in Port Pirie, 18 in Whyalla, Port Lincoln and Kadina. Taking a look at the satellite image now, a high pressure system over the Bight will continue to move eastwards to be over Victoria on Monday. Another low pressure system is forecast to move across South Australia next week. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Variable winds about 10 knots, becoming southerly in the late afternoon and evening, reaching 15 knots. Seas below 1 metre and south to southwesterly swell below 1 metre, increasing up to 1.5. Port Lincoln partly cloudy and 18 degrees tomorrow. Cleve heading for a top of 20 degrees. Woodna mostly sunny and 22, down to just 4 tonight. Partly cloudy and 21 degrees in Wowler, between 11 and 23 degrees in Port Augusta. Kadina partly cloudy and 20 degrees. Mostly sunny in Port Pirie, 22. Clare partly cloudy conditions between 5 and 17 degrees there. Partly cloudy and 19 in Broken Hill, down to 9 degrees tonight. Taking a look further through the week now, and Sunday is shaping up to be a beautiful day to spend outdoors. Sunny in Port Augusta, 25 degrees, Woodna warm and 26, 24 in Port Pirie, 22 in Kadina, Wowler heading for a top of 21 degrees. Taking a look at Monday's outlook now, the chance of a severe thunderstorm in Coober Pedy, 29 degrees, mostly sunny in Port Augusta, 27 degrees, but there is a 30% chance of a shower in the evening. Possible showers in Woodna as well, 26 degrees. And finally, taking our first look at Tuesday's outlook, possible storms in Port Augusta, 21, up to 20 millimetres of rain will fall. Showers and 21 in Woodna, Wowler and Kadina. Possible showers and 20 degrees in Port Lincoln, 22 in Port Pirie and Adelaide. And that's all the weather from me for tonight. I'll see you soon with an update. It's back to you, Maddie.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Friday. I'm Madeline Kerr. From all of us here, thanks for joining us. I'll have updates a little later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.